Hey, this is After Effects Juice, and today we're going to be making this juice box animation. So when I created this, I was trying to figure out a simple way to fake a liquid sort of quality without using any fancy plugins. And this is the result of that struggle. So hopefully this tutorial sparks some ideas and allows you to create some cool stuff. This is also my first tutorial, so let me know if I'm really good or if I need to go back to tutorial school, get my degree in tutorial making. Okay, let's get started. So we'll go composition, new comp, and we'll call it juicebox. We want to make sure it's 720 by 720 at 24 frames a second and a 5-second duration. Press OK. And now we'll go layer, new, solid, and this will be our background, so we'll rename it to background, and we'll make it sort of a pale blue color, like that. Click OK. So now we've got our background. We'll go new, solid, and we'll call this juice, and we'll make this yellow, so like lemon juice or something. Okay. So now click the rectangle mask tool and then click and drag, hold shift, and this will make a perfect square. And then, so we want it about that size. And we want it to be centered, so we'll click the align panel and make sure we click this button. And if you can't see the align panel, go window, align, and that should appear. And we just want to drag it down a little bit and hold shift to keep it on the y-axis. So about there. Something we need to make sure we do as well is move the anchor point to the bottom of our square. Or just a bit above. About there. And this will come into play a bit later, but it's important to do now. Okay, so next we're going to duplicate the layer, so press Ctrl D. Press enter and rename this one to box, and change the track matte of the juice layer to alpha matte. And this will act as a sort of mask, but you won't really see the effect it has until a bit later on. That's okay. So next we want to actually animate our juice layer. So how we're going to do that is with a linear wipe effect. And I've already typed it in, but you just type in linear and then transition linear wipe and just add that to the juice layer. So we want to set the wipe angle to 180 degrees and then hit a keyframe on frame 12. And we want this to be about 95. And then go to frame, or 2 seconds, and then change the transition completion to it when it just reaches the top. So 54%. And then if you hit U on the layer, select the keyframes and press F9. That'll make it easy ease, so you've got a bit smoother of an animation. Okay, so we've got the basic animation down, but we need some distortion so it's more wavy like liquid. So we're going to add the turbulent displace effect. And instantly we've got some distortion, but it's not exactly how we need it. So we'll set the amount to about 120 and the size to 35. So that says the size is small enough that it will actually be able to see some waves, and the amount will just raise it in a sense. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so we've got this sort of weird effect happening at the moment. We need to animate some of these values. So we're going to animate the evolution, the offset, the size, and the amount. So we've got keyframes here. So let's go to frame, or 2 seconds, and then we'll set the evolution to 2 revolutions. We'll drag the offset, hold down shift, and we'll just drag it to the right here, about there. Oops. And we'll set the size to about 20 and the amount to 0. So now we've got this sort of animating weird thing happening, but it's affecting our whole square. And we don't want that, we just want it to affect the top sort of bit of it. So how we're going to remedy that is with a mask, which is why we created it earlier. So if you hit M, or a track mat I should say, not a mask. So if you hit M, it'll bring up the mask of the juice layer, and then press Ctrl T, hold down Shift and Control, and just extend it just a little bit, and that'll make sure that our animation stays within the bounds of the box track mat. So now it fills up and the edges are fine. Okay, but we need to adjust some of the keyframes because we've got this little bit here now. So we'll just change this to about 96, and that'll go away. Okay, so next, what have we got? So we've got our basic juice filling animation. So we need the pouring now. So we'll press Ctrl D on the box layer, press enter to rename, and we'll call it pouring. Turn the layer on. We'll go back to frame 12, and we need to adjust the shape. So press M, select the mask, press Ctrl T, grab this handle and Control, and just make it a bit thinner. So about that, and extend this one just to the edge, or the top edge of the comp. So now we've got this sort of static thing. So we need to animate it, so we'll add the linear wipe effect. And we'll set the wipe angle to 0. I think. Yep. And we'll set a keyframe. And we'll change this to 100%. Make sure you're on frame 12 for that one. And then, oh no, press U. We want that frame to be on frame 4. So move that one back. And then on frame 12, animate it so it just reaches the edge of our box. So about 5%. Then select the keyframes and press F9. So now we've got the pouring. So if we look at our animation now, we've got pouring and we've got filling, but we need a bit more. So to make it more realistic, we're going to add a sort of splash when this hits the bottom. So how we're going to do that is, so select the juice layer, hold down Shift, select the box layer, then press Ctrl D, and now press Enter, rename the second juice layer to Splash. And then press U to bring up the keyframes. Okay, so we want it to sort of grow out a bit, so we're going to animate the scale of the layer. So if you press Shift and then S, that'll bring up the scale. So set a keyframe, and then go to about frame 17, and set another keyframe. So if we go back to this first one, we want to set that to 30%. So it'll sort of grow out. And you can't really see much of it at the moment. So we're going to adjust the transition completion. We're going to set this to about 83%. And that'll raise it up a bit. So it sort of splashes up like that. But we don't want it to keep going. So we'll go to about frame 1 second and 1.5 seconds pretty much. And we'll set the transitions completion to 100%. And that'll basically animate, so it goes up and goes down a little bit, and then the original juice layer will keep animating up. So something we need to do, obviously, is add another animation to our pouring so it finishes with this animation. So just to close all the keyframes, hit U, go to the pouring, and then we'll add another linear wipe, and we'll go to about second 19, set the wipe angle to 180, set a keyframe for the transition completion, so keep it at 0, and then go to 2 seconds and set it so it's just below our box, so about 57%. And if you hit U, and then select the keyframes, F9, and that'll make it easy as well. Now it may end a bit early, so we might just drag that back a little bit. Maybe even further. So now we've got this. And that's basically the whole animation. So some things we could do to make this look even better is we could go into individual keyframes, mostly the linear wipe keyframes for all the layers, and we could adjust the keyframes using the graph editor. And this would give us more accuracy in terms of animation, so when I adjust that, that makes the liquid fall faster. But that's a whole nother tutorial by itself. Something else we could do is we could add an adjustment layer, so adjustment, and then we'll come in here and we'll type CC force, and that'll bring up force motion blur. So if we add that, it adds some motion blur to our animation, and it doesn't look too great because the samples are kind of low, but if you pump them up before you render out, it'll probably look a bit better. We'll just leave that out for now. Other things we could do, that's about it, I guess. Yeah, so we could just say nah and leave it because we're happy with it. So that's about it. Let me know what you think of the tutorial in the comments, and be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Oh, if you have any questions or tips, leave them in the comments too. This is my first tutorial, so I'm looking forward to seeing how people think it went. Alright, so this has been After Effects Juice. Thanks for watching.